Hours and hours of trying to understand how Zed works, I finally hit the point that I feel that I'm ready to share my experiences with you to make you a better Zed player. I hope you enjoy the video. In this video, we'll go over a couple of things that will help you to understand Zed. Firstly, Champion Select, featuring summoner spells, runes, and masteries. Then I'll go over which items you should get on Zed and in which order you should be leveling up your skills. After that, I will briefly tell you how Zed's skills work. That will give you a clear understanding of Zed as a champion. Then the more advanced part of the guide comes, where we will be looking at the in-game part of Zed. If you wish to skip through to any of the parts of the video, there is a list of buttons on the top side of the video. Pressing these buttons will skip you through the parts listed. Now, let's get started with Champion Select. Zed is an assassin who wants to burst his enemies down quickly. Because of that, I use Ignite and Flash as summoner spells on Zed. My rune page is a fairly basic AD rune page. It has armor penetration marks, armor and health seals, magic resist glyphs, and attack damage quintessence. I use 2190 masteries because it makes you stronger in fights. Here you see an overview of item build and skill order. You can use these for your own games since they have proven to work for me. Before you start playing Zed, it is important to know how his abilities work. Let's take a quick look at what they exactly do. Zed, his passive, Contempt for the Weak, makes Zed do extra damage on enemies with 50% HP or less. The damage scales on percent max HP of your enemy. This passive can only be used once every 10 seconds on the same target. Zed, his Q, Razor Shuriken, throws a shuriken towards a direction dealing physical damage. The first target hit will get 100% of the damage, while all targets hit after that will only get 60% of the damage. When Zed has a shadow active, this shadow will also throw the shuriken. The shadow only deals 50% of the damage on the first target and 30% on the next targets. Zed, his W, Living Shadow, has a passive and an active. The passive grants Zed increased bonus AD. The active spawns a shadow on location targeted on first press. If you press W for the second time, Zed will swap locations with the shadow. Additionally, if a target is struck twice by a mimicked ability, Zed restores some energy. Zed, his E, Shadow Slash, will make Zed spin around with his blades. This will deal damage to all enemies surrounding Zed and his shadows. Each enemy hit will reduce Living Shadow's cooldown by 2 seconds. If his shadows hit an enemy, it will also slow the enemy for 1.5 seconds. Zed's ultimate, Death Mark, is the most interesting ability of them all. Zed becomes untargetable for 0.75 seconds and dashes Zed behind his target. This will put a mark on the enemy's head. This mark will trigger in 3 seconds and will deal damage based on the percent damage he dealt during the time the mark was active. Additionally, it also spawns a shadow behind your target. Just like Living Shadow, you can re-enable this ability to swap locations with the shadow. With all the information settled and done, we are ready to jump into the more advanced part of the guide, teaching you how to actually play Zed in game. These are mainly tips and tricks that will help you to become a better Zed player in the long run, and that you will have to practice. Starting with the early game, Zed has the handicap of being a melee champion. This means that farming against ranged champions can become quite difficult, because they will harass you. Luckily, Zed doesn't have mana, but he has energy. If you get harassed too much in lane, you can farm with your Razor Shuriken, because its energy will replenish quite fast. On level 2 and 3, Zed can start poking the enemies by using his Living Shadows. Because this shadow mimics all of Zed's abilities, you can harass your enemies from a distance by using your Razor Shuriken and your Shadow Slash. However, there is a downside to this. If you are pushed up and you are using your Living Shadow for harass, you will not have any escapes anymore. Only use Living Shadow as harass when you know you are safe. When your enemies get below 50% HP, you can try for an all-in with Ignite. Targets below 50% HP will trigger your passive, giving you a huge boost of damage on your basic attacks. When you harass your opponent with your living shadow and your opponent gets hit by your shadow's shadow slash, swap locations with the shadow by pressing W again. Now you are in range to auto attack and go for the all-in. To improve the poke on lane, you can try to hit both of your shurikens at the same time. A way to do this is to throw your living shadow out, shadow slash with the shadow to slow your opponent, move closer with your character and throw the shurikens out. This will maximize the damage you can deal on your targets. Then, once you have your ultimate, things will get interesting. Still try to keep poking your enemies below 50% HP before going in, and then go for your ultimate. If they flash away immediately after you use it, use your living shadow to gap close and try to deal as much damage as you can while the mark is active. This is why you always start your engage with your ultimate. If you know the enemy dies from the death mark, use your R again to swap locations of the shadow in the starting location. It is even better to engage with your ultimate if you can dodge an ability with it first. Death mark makes you untargetable for 0.75 seconds. Meaning that you can avoid crucial enemy abilities to use it on its most effective way possible. As that, you should always try to quickly burst down the enemy squishies on the team. Target the enemy AD carry or the mid laner to make sure you're able to quickly burst down your opponents. Use all of your active items while Deathmark is active and return to your ultimate shadow to get back in safety for effective assassinations. Because Zed is so strong in the 1v1, split pushing definitely works late game. In team fights he usually gets focused, exhausted and so on, but when you're split pushing they actually can't counter you that hard. If someone shows up in lane, you should just try to kill him. You should be the better 1v1 champion if you play it correctly. Make sure the pressure is there for the enemy team. So to quickly sum it up, use your shadow's mimicked abilities to poke your enemies on lane. If they are below 50% HP, all in them. When you ult, try to dodge a crucial ability and to use your living shadow as well to get damage out of 2 shadows. Use all of your active items while the mark is active. Re-enable your ultimate when you know you will pop them and split push late game for maximum efficiency. I want to thank all of you for watching this Zed guide. Please leave a like if you've learned something from it and comment below which champion you want to learn next. Good luck with Zed and I hope to see you all next time.